a little bit or now, so let's get started. Thank you everybody for joining us today, regardless of where you are across the world. We appreciate it. My name is John Weskitz. I'm in charge of the business development and marketing groups at Zixi. Today I am joined by Jordi Zander. He's the product manager, primary distribution solutions from Cinemedia, and Tim Baldwin, who is the director of product at Zixi. Jordi is responsible for product management of Cinemedia's media distribution solution products within the Video Network Group. Those products include satellite uplink systems, conditional access systems, network management solutions, and satellite to IP distribution systems focused on delivering offerings to content owners and programmers. He is currently responsible for the management, strategy, planning, partnering, and marketing of the next generation media distribution ecosystem. Prior to Cinemedia, Jordi held various strategic roles with Cisco over 12 years, joining through the acquisition of Scientific Atlanta way back in 2005. So sorry, Jordi, I'm hoping I'm not aging you too much there.
No problem.
And Tim Baldwin leads the Zixi product management team and drives the product vision, strategy, and roadmap for the organization. He has a long history in engineering, product, and marketing roles in media and computer hardware technology companies. Before joining Zixi, Tim developed and managed the integration of Brightcove's online video platform with both enterprise content management systems and content delivery networks. He also played an instrumental role in developing and deploying encoding and streaming technologies and services at Kulebyte and Haivision. So moving on into our agenda, Tim and Jordi are going to provide a brief overview of Cinemedia and Zixi. Jordi is going to do a deeper dive of the Cinemedia product offering and the Zixi integration, do a demonstration of the product with Zixi, provide a use case example, real world use case example. And then at the end, we'll provide some quick takeaways and take your questions. So with that brief introduction, Jordi, would you take over?
Yeah, hey, thanks for kicking it off, John. So those that are not familiar with Cinemedia, basically Cinemedia is a new company launched in October of 2018, so about a year old. It came of the divestiture that Cisco did of their service provider video business unit to private equity firm Permira. We are technically a startup, but we have close to 3,000 employees. We have over 1,000 customers in the various markets, cable, satellite, telco, and broadcast, with over 200 paid TV operators using our platforms. We're headquartered out of the UK, but we have major offices in the US, Canada, Belgium, Israel, Singapore, so basically a worldwide presence. So what makes Cinemedia? Well, basically, if you look at what basically comprises of Cinemedia, it's video as in our DNA. The companies that Cisco acquired to build their video business go all the way back from, Barco with Scientific Atlanta, the NDS acquisition, Inlet, which kind of formed our OTT portfolio. Of course, we have Cisco DNA, IP DNA in our groups as well, along with Arroyo. So all these companies basically build up 30 years of experience in the video industry, and makes us one of the biggest video solution providers to date. So what do we deliver? So there's three business units. So one is what we call video experience and cloud DVR. So we offer video platforms, either traditional or cloud-based, for pay-to-view operators to kind of process, distribute, secure, and monetize the premium video experiences on all devices. That includes cloud EVR, client middleware, analytics. So a whole platform around that. We also have a video security business, and that spans from you basically video guard based cams that were used in direct to home or pro IRDs, all the way to streaming piracy prevention systems for OTT, to credential sharing inside solutions and our operational security teams. Last but not least, we also have a video network business unit, and that's where the partnership with Zixi has been the strongest. It's basically anything related to video distribution, encoding, transcoding, and the management and orchestration of all that. This for broadcast and OTT. So if we dive into that group, we basically cover three main areas: distribution, processing, and delivery. Distribution is basically the secure distribution of content from the content provider to the service provider affiliates. Processing is everything to do with processing content at the service provider for final consumption to the consumer end base. And then we also have a CDN portfolio with multicast and unicast delivery systems that we can even host. So a full end-to-end portfolio to distribute your content from where it gets created all the way to the end user. If we go one level deeper, the products that are relevant to the Zixi implementation or in the media distribution and the media processing. In the media distribution, again, solutions for content providers, we have our professional receiver, the 9800. So it's a network receiver that can take content over various of media, satellite, IP, and basically allows a variety of applications and handoffs at the service provider. That's where we've done major work with Zixi to enable that feature set. We also have a management system around all that that gives the content providers control over all their content delivery. What is key there, with the introduction of internet delivery and connected IRDs over IP, we also added monitoring of all our IRDs into the equation. If we go to the processing side again, a lot of you will be familiar with our digital content manager, the DCM, kind of our Swiss Army knife, all the way from transport stream processing, ad insertion, transcoding as an appliance. We took that feature set and created our software digital content manager, and that's where the investments have been made around Zixi. It basically is a software version of digital content manager that can be purchased on appliances, or can also be be installed on your private and public data centers. Along with that is the video service manager that basically manages all of these elements from basic monitoring and management to orchestration in cloud-based infrastructures. And that's kind of a summary. I'm going to have Tim talk a little bit about Zixi. Tim?
Sorry, guys. Thank you, Jordi. Zixi provides a cloud-based and on-premise software-defined video platform that transports broadcast quality live video over all IP and hybrid IP networks. This enables our customers to provision and manage and deploy over 10,000 live linear channels and live events today. It supports all major protocols, and it's used around the world by broadcasters and OTT providers and service providers in over 100 countries with over 50,000 active devices. Video transport and delivery over IP is doing to broadcast infrastructure what cloud computing did to compute infrastructure. It's a big change in the industry right now. It's enabling broadcasters to do things at scale that wasn't really possible even 2 years ago in the broadcast world. It allows them to save money, allows them to be more flexible, allows them to connect to places that they couldn't normally connect to, or it wasn't cost effective to connect to those places. Okay, let's go to the next slide. At Zixi, we have over 100 partners and OEMs. So almost every device and every service provider out there in the broadcast world has Zixi integrated into it, either in its services or integrated into its software and hardware. This includes the Cinemedia software DCM and 9800, which you already just mentioned, and we'll be discussing more today. Zixi has native deployments on the largest cloud platforms, and it's used by most of the OTT platforms and many of the premier content owners. All of this we call the Zixi-enabled network, which provides you with the interoperability and the ability to future-proof whatever decisions you're making today. Let's go to the next slide. Broadcast quality live video transport and delivery over IP is the problem Zixi is solving for our clients. And we do this by bringing hardware and software and cloud solutions all under one platform. Zixi has built and assembled a software-defined video platform consisting of a tight integration of 4 crucial elements. First of all is the Zixi-enabled devices around the world, Zixi-enabled network, which we just mentioned. Second are the protocols. Of course, this includes the time-tested Zixi protocol, which has been in mission-critical use for almost a decade. But it also supports newer protocols such as RIST and all the common protocols that we all know of, such as RTP, RTMP, HLS, DASH. In total, we support 9 different protocols. The third element of this is the Zixi Video Solution Stack. So this is the software that manages all the protocols and collects analytics and layers intelligence on top of the protocols, such as bonding and hitless failover and more advanced features like that. Finally, and fourth, is ZenMaster, which is our control plane that allows you to intelligently provision and deploy and manage and monitor your Zixi-enabled network. Let's go to the next slide. Zixi can be used across all IP networks and hybrid IP networks for both live linear and live events. As we've mentioned today, we support the Zixi protocol plus 8 additional protocols. Zixi has native integrations on Amazon AWS and Azure and Google GCP, but it's also in use on some of the other cloud providers as well. Next slide. Zixi is used in a variety of applications. Here we're showing some of the most common applications, including customers that are moving off of satellite, which has high fixed costs, to a more flexible infrastructure. Customers that need to exchange and syndicate their linear video content with many partners with less complexity. Customers needing to orchestrate and manage hundreds or thousands of individual linear channels. Customers who are looking for new ways to monetize their linear content. And finally, customers who are wanting to move their linear workflows to the cloud or to virtualized infrastructure. Okay, back to you, Jordi.
Thanks, Tim. So as promised, maybe a little bit of a deeper dive into 2 products where we did the full Zixi integration in. So our professional receiver, the 9800, and our software DCM. So what is the Pro IRD that Cinemedia offers? First of all, it's more than just the basic satellite receiver. So it supports, while it supports satellite input, we can also take in any flavor of IP, MPEG over IP, HLS delivery, and of course, Zixi reception, where we put quite a bit of investment in. And that can all be received concurrently, or you can also use this as disaster recovery option. So file over from satellite to IP and vice versa, depending on how what your primary path is. It also has decryption capabilities, all the way from integrated PowerView to the VB-based decryption, BIS-based decryption, and of course, if you use the Zixi encryption, it can take care of that as well. We support fingerprinting for piracy prevention, and also working on watermarking features in the box. From a functionality perspective, it's a full decoder, HEVC, AVC, or MPEG-2, but it also has transcode capabilities from HEVC to MPEG-2, from AVC to MPEG-2, HD to SD. So it supports all these different transcode flavors, all in one RU appliance. From a processing perspective, after it does all its functionality, you can either decode to SDI, HDMI, or analog, or you can basically use its DS functions and output ASI or MPEG over IP. We're also working on our Ultra HD options with 12G and quad SDI and 702110. Then on the management side, as mentioned before, if it's in an overall content provider network, we offer our PowerView Network Center, which is CA, control, and monitoring of these IRDs as they are deployed. But we also have done the integration with Zixi ZenMaster. So we're Zixi ZenMaster certified, and you can also manage our box in that environment. Let's kind of touch on what related to Zixi did we do on the box. So there's two flavors of a 9800, kind of a single stream focused on decoding, and a multi-stream focused on multi-service decryption or transcoding and such. On both platforms, we support push and pull, this from Zixi Broadcaster, from the AWS Media Connect. So all flavors there supported. The Zixi FEC is supported, Zixi Encryption, DTLS is supported, and also recently we did the integration with Zixi ZenMaster. We do Zixi input stream redundancy on the box as well. And from a throughput perspective, keep in mind this is a hardware appliance. We basically can do a full transponder of bandwidth. On the single stream, it's focused on a single input, so one transponder. In the multi-stream box, you can actually take multiple Zixi instances, up to 4 today at 30 meg each. So quite a bit of throughput in the typical content provider environment. We also did the integration on our software DCM, also known as VDCM. That's basically for kind of service provider headends, where you're probably going to do more bulk content. But as I mentioned, the DCM was a Swiss Army knife. This is still a level up. So on the Xcode side, it offers all encoding flavors: HEVC, AVC, MPEG-2. We can also transcode with the box from AVS Plus, HEVC, AVC, MPEG-2 to AVC and MPEG-2. From an inputs perspective, we go all the way from SDI to SMPTE 2110 support as ingest on the box. And it also offers everything you need for the OTT side of the house, ABR encoding and transcoding, all built in. Talk about OTT, we also offer packaging options. They could be integrated in the application or be stood up by itself. So full packaging support, and also the same thing with Origin, can be part of the unit or can be stood up by itself. This is a microservices platform, so all the individual functions can be deployed if you're looking into cloud environments, containerized environments. Content protection, it's basically supports your DVB scrambling, DRM in case you use it for OTT, and also does some of the piracy prevention like hidden watermarking in the box. Add insertion, from MPEG-2 to HEVC, live linear splicing, and in the OTT world, manifest manipulation options, all available on the platform. On the processing side, that's where kind of our Zixi integration comes into play. So we do support reliable transfer over the internet with Zixi input, and we're also coming out with the Zixi feeder output on the box as well. So you get to get both ends from the Zixi perspective. Full TS processing and monitoring in the box as well, as you do all the rest of the functions. Management-wise, we have our video service manager that is a single platform to orchestrate and manage both the streaming side and the broadcast delivery side. Also comes with rich APIs, so easy to integrate in other systems as well. Focused on Zixi itself, push and pull are supported. The encryption side and the FEC side. What is key here, where the 9800 has some limitations on the number of Zixi instances or inputs you can receive. And there's also some bandwidth limits based on the hardware appliance, given that the software application can be run on a variety of servers. So depending on the server platform, you basically have limited restrictions on the number of Zixi inputs or the bandwidth limit, mainly guarded by your true IOs on the box. So that's kind of a snapshot to kind of position the two platforms. What I wanted to do now is kind of show you really briefly how this looks like from a configuration perspective. What Zixi functionality do you get on the boxes. So let me launch the 9800 first. Here. So if you look at the 9800, so again, the box can receive a variety of inputs concurrently or as DR. So we have RF flavors, ASI, IP, ZIGSI, all of these variety of methods are available. If you look at the ZIGSI side, this is the MS box, so up to 4 ZIGSIs can be set up as pull or push. If it's push, the broadcaster basically sets up the receiver once it's configured in there. With pull, you basically configure it, determine what the source is, what stream you want to receive, and any port configuration. So what do you get to see once it locks in? So it gives you a full signal status. If there is a signal and there's actually something valid stream-wise on it. If you use DR, you'll also see what is set up as the next DR step. You get to see the rate received and it updates. If it's fully acquired, meaning are all the tables available to create a reliable transport stream. Any errors from, I lost input for a while, the authorization key is not right. All of these are also displayed and monitored by the box. What interface is used? The box comes with a management port and 4 IP interfaces, so quite extensive in the way you can receive physically the content as well. And then it shows what source it's getting it from, and then how many packets was ZIGSI able to recover using ARQ. If FEC was needed, that will also show any recovered package there. If there were any major issues that weren't recoverable, you would also be able to see that in here. And this is all still basically based on ZIGSI statistics. And then if we go one level deeper on the transport stream level in the box, we can also showcase what the packet error is there as well. As indicated, you can basically select on the box, pick from all the inputs. So in this case, program 1 I've received from RF1, program 2 from ZIGSI 2, ZIGSI 3, ZIGSI 4. So you can pick channels from a variety of sources all at the same time and create a new transport stream out of it. Disaster recovery is also an interesting feature, given that if you want to use satellite still as primary and use ZIGSI as backup, you can set up where on the origin side, I'm using my RF1. If it is an issue, it basically goes and looks to her ZIGSI and replaces that channel with the channel it finds on the ZIGSI side. Another feature of the platform is, so once you have the units on the internet, we have connectivity, something we never had with satellite. So what we added in our monitoring plan, so if you're a content provider that already has a PowerView system in place, we added what we call PowerView Insight. So any box that is connected over IP, and this basically can be registered into the system, you can monitor. So from basically a map view, where you can zoom in into the IRDs and get their immediate status. In this case, it shows that on some of the inputs, I don't have a signal. And also, if it's on the right channel, if it's authorized, and all of that. I can also see input metrics, and that works better in the list. So if I go to my input metrics, I can see the same thing that I saw on the user interface, my 4 ZIGSI inputs, if they're locked in or not, if it's, and what the rate is on those inputs. So all of this in your day-to-day IRD management system for those IP connected receivers, you can also ingest it there. You can also log into the box from here as well, and basically get a similar overview of the variety of parameters to set up. Very interesting if you need to help troubleshoot an affiliate. So this sets up a very secure connection, which kind of brings us into what we can do with ZIGSI ZenMaster. So if you look at the setup for ZIGSI ZenMaster, so go in right here. So just to kind of showcase, you can, and then the way the secure connection is set up, you generate a key pair at the IRD level using the user interface. you export it, you bring it into your Zixi ZenMaster platform, where it gets ingested, and it creates a key back that you then import here on the receiver. At that point in time, there is a secure setup between the Zixi ZenMaster platform and the IRD. So at that point in time, Zixi ZenMaster can launch and basically tie in the IRD into the overall system. So if I go in here, for example, I can go into the Zixi ZenMaster platform and launch my IRD from here as well. So we'll set up using the secure connection, log in, and here I'm in. Just to showcase the full integration with Zixi. I don't know, Tim, if anything else you want to bring up on Zixi ZenMaster besides, that I can launch my user interface.
Yeah, I'll just touch on that a little bit more. Often the IRDs will be, behind a firewall on a private network. So the idea of being able to remotely launch the UI is so that you can, from your ZenMaster interface, which you can access from anywhere, it's a cloud-based SaaS, you're able to get into the IRDs and configure them without having to be on premise, sitting in front of the IRD. So I think it's a great example of how Zixi ZenMaster allows you to manage and orchestrate the what we call the Zixi enabled devices all from one interface, from one location.
Yeah, so indeed, so key if you have a variety of Zixi receivers and an overall Zixi platform, you can bring in the 9800. If you're in a traditional PowerView context, you can also bring it into our PowerView platform and use a similar connectivity. To kind of finish up for the day, let's talk a little bit about a use case where our partnership has really paid off for us and the customer. So one of the use cases and kind of the topic of this session here, let me make sure it's visible, there you go, is migration from satellite to IP. So there is, of course, cost pressure on programmers these days. There's also the kind of the IP distribution being more available, internet delivery, fiber circuits, and then the migration to data center, which basically forces all IP, has kind of put this in the forefront. Not to talk about some of the other projects like 5G, spectrum reclaim. All of these will be there's all topics that drives this discussion. So we actually had a customer that came to us looking for some cost savings, and they asked us to kind of analyze what we could do to bring their regional sports networks to ground. So what they were doing was they had about 12 regional sport channels going to about 100, a little bit over 100 locations, but utilizing 2 transponders. So quite a bit of a costly endeavor to go to basically more of a regionalized or long tail type of implementation. For pure cable distribution, going to cable TV head ends, of course, satellite is still a great way to multicast. But in any of the other content, there is quite a bit of options to migrate away. Now, of course, there were some requirements there. First of all, migrating cost, you wanted to make sure that after you migrate that the cost, the solution that you picked was more cost effective than satellite distribution, and especially in this environment with regional sports networks, that was the case. Another thing was, of course, they've been used to satellite. Satellite has been very reliable. They wanted the similar reliability over that ground distribution. So when we looked at all the options, we kept that into account as well. And you can say, fiber connectivity, but you don't have fiber connectivity to pretty much every place these days. So that's where internet delivery with reliable protocols came into play. Security was important to them as well. So we wanted to pick a technology that allowed either the same controls that they were used to today to be existing. So for example, in the PowerView environment would be PowerView CA, or that had built-in security, like with Zixi, their AES encryption options. So that was key in the decision-making process. And of course, the management of everything was key as well. They want to be able to at least get similar control and visibility as they had with their satellite solutions. The final other key item, of course, was latency, because we did investigate at the time some other technologies that were more related to OTT transmission. But in the end, looking at reliable transport, lower latency, the security, and the cost, ZigSee was selected as the best method to go forward. So they implemented the ZigSee broadcaster in their uplink facility, fed by our DCM software DCMs. On the service provider side, they deployed our 9800 Pro IRD with ZigSee abilities. All those Pro IRDs also have satellite input, so if there's ever a need for disaster recovery, they can still go there as well. But through a simple license on their Pro IRDs, we're able to enable it, and they're using ZigSee AES-128 end-to-end to enable the security side, as it was one of the requirements. So this was a migration where they were able to shut down 2 transponders, move everything to ground, and has been running reliably since it was launched without any issues whatsoever. So it definitely proved the ZigSee reliable transmission. So let's go to key takeaways, John.
Yeah, so what we've tried to illustrate today is that the integrated offering will allow programmers to gracefully, seamlessly migrate any programming from satellite to terrestrial distribution methods by providing secure, reliable, error-free video over transport. The 2 products that Synamedia has integrated are the VDCM and the PowerView professional receiver, the D9800. They have integrated monitoring reporting with ZigSee ZenMaster control plane. They are ZigSee ZenMaster certified, which means that our customers very easily get to see into the Synamedia products and get an extensive view to be able to monitor, report, configure their ZigSee and Synamedia deployments. And finally, the ZigSee functionality is enabled on the Synamedia devices. Synamedia sells their products, and we collaboratively go to market together, but the licenses are purchased directly from ZigSee. So you've got the best of 2 technology worlds here. So with that, we will open it up to questions to the group. Please fire away.
Did any questions come in yet, John? Or I see a lot of blinking, but I'm scared to touch anything.
There's one that I can jump on that came in, and the question was, is ZigSee compatible or interfaced with S3 buckets? So this would be AWS S3. So the answer is yes. So ZigSee, the ZigSee broadcaster can do packaging to HLS and Dash and can publish to S3 buckets to be used for an origin for CDN. But also ZigSee supports AWS's media store service, which is a little newer. That is a higher. Let's think of it as a higher performance version of S3 that's really intended for live content. So with ZigSee, you can publish to either S3 or AWS Media Store.
Okay, thank you, Tim. We have another question. Could you please elaborate on what kinds of monitoring does each party, ZigSee and Synamedia, provide, and how does it complement one another?
Jordi, you want to start?
Yeah, I want to. So basically, for those users that already have an existing PowerView environment, might be migrating some of their content to ground with ZigSee. we basically have the option for all those 6E enabled receivers to bring in any monitoring that's available on the IRD. That's basically all the alarming that's available on the IRD can be brought into that platform. As I showed, case, what the status is, if it's locked in or not, if it's on the right channel tuning. So really in context of how you currently work with that receiver base in a PowerView system. So on our end, it's really geared towards existing users, but it could be expanded and work standalone as well if you're only doing 6E transmission without anything else. But I think that's key. If you have a variety of 6E type of receivers in place, I think that's where 6E ZenMaster plays a great role. Tim?
Yeah, so yeah, let me jump in on that. So with ZenMaster, there's a variety of types of content and network monitoring that we can do. On the content side, we have things like frozen frame analysis, or a blank frame, or audio clipping, or missing audio. So all of these. So this is where we're inspecting the content of the video itself, and then we can throw alerts based on those. We also have transport analytics. So this is all the TR101 type analysis. So for each type of TR101 error or warning, we can throw alerts on that. And then also network analytics. So this is going to be looking at how many packets were not received the first time but then recovered, how many packets were unrecovered. And then we also have things like looking at frame analysis. Were we missing any full frames of video or audio? So all of these types of analysis are available within the ZenMaster SaaS-based UI, and all of them the user can set alerts so that you can monitor them without having to have eyes on glass.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So basically, in short, for basic monitoring in a PowerView environment, you can basically rely on our PowerView Insight product. But if you want more details, you can complement it with the 6E ZenMaster, or if you have a variety of 6E receivers, then 6E ZenMaster is the way to go.
All right, our next question is, when switching from satellite to 6E, what is the latency?
Well, I mean, there is indeed a lock-in time, so it takes a couple of seconds. So it is really disaster recovery today between the different types of inputs. If you talk about pure video latency, I think 6E, depending on how reliable the connection is, you can set up the delay. So you can, you do add a couple of seconds of latency, video latency, to basically be able to recover, be able to re-request as needed. So it's really more of a configuration, but it's only by a couple of seconds if you talk about real pure video latency. If you talk about switchover times, a couple of seconds as well, because it's really more of a disaster recovery feature.
Yeah, I can add a little bit on the video side with the 6E protocol. The minimum latency that you want to try to target will be about 3 to 5 times the round trip time. So part of this depends on how far you're going. If you're going from North America to India, you may have several hundred milliseconds for round trip time. So maybe you set your target latency to 1 second. If everything is in North America, or if everything is in Europe, then of course your round trip times will be much tighter. But that's stuff. So for the video latency itself, it's dependent on the round trip time, and then within the 6E infrastructure, what the user does is you configure the target latency that you're looking for, and then the software and the algorithms will meet that latency, if it's possible. So if you don't really care about latency, you might just set your target to 3 or 4 seconds. But if you're really trying to hit a very low latency, then look at how you're deployed, look at what your round trip times are going to be, and then you can really fine tune your latency target.
Another question, is there a possibility to view the video, listen to the audio as part of monitoring?
Maybe I'll start first. So we do have plans on our, so for the VDCM, we do thumbnails. It's very video oriented. We also working on with our 9000 portfolio to add some thumbnail functionality. But as far as I understand, no audio monitoring. I'm not sure if there's anything on the Zixi ZenMaster side today.
Yeah, let me jump in on that. So yeah, so within ZenMaster, what you normally have displayed is our thumbnails, and then on any particular channel of content, you can click on that video to bring up a viewer, and so typically it'll pop up a VLC viewer that's actually pulling a Zixi stream from ZenMaster and the Zixi Broadcaster. And so once that VLC is running on your local machine, then you're seeing the actual live video with, you know, full frame rate video and audio.
Next question, is it possible to receive VDCM from an ATEM encoder?
Well, it's a very interesting question, but you know, based on the implementations, I think today it's vendor to vendor, you know, same vendor to. You have to have a broadcaster in between our AWS Media Connect to interconnect those platforms.
Yep.
Given Zixi supports a bunch of options, pull, push, paired, FEC, AES encrypted, etc., what is the most prominently used option combination in terms of Zixi customer usage?
Okay, that's a good one. So on the contribution side, most common is a Zixi feeder software or a device like an elemental encoder, let's say, that has Zixi built in, will do a push connection up to the Zixi Broadcaster, which is in the cloud or a data center somewhere. So that's a Zixi push. And then if you're distributing to IRDs like the D9800, then most often that's going to be a Zixi pull, which means the receiver will reach out to the broadcaster and establish the connection, and then the stream will come down because that receiver is typically behind a firewall. So generally it's a Zixi push on contribution and a Zixi pull on receiving. And I think I also saw, is AES used, or so AES is often used. And then what's becoming more common in Zixi workflows when customers are using ZenMaster is using DTLS for the whole connection. So AES is actually encrypting the content at the feeding side and then decrypting at the receiving side. DTLS is a session level encryption that layers on top of that. So we see DTLS being used more often, especially with ZenMaster, because with ZenMaster it will automatically set up the keys and initiate and configure the whole DTLS section.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Jordi. We are just about out of time here. So we did get a couple of questions asking if we will be sending out this presentation afterwards, and yes, we absolutely will be. And then hopefully we can talk to some of you directly if you have any more questions. But we really appreciate your time this morning, this afternoon, depending on where you are. Jordi, Tim, thank you very much for your expertise. And we look forward to talking to you all again very soon.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.